March 23, 1943, 0630 hours. The rugged hills of Guettar Pass, Tunisia. Dust hangs thick in the pre-dawn air, choking the lungs like a shroud. You can almost taste a metallic tang of fear and cordite as Lieutenant Harlan Reeves peers through the narrow slit of his M3 Stuart light tank's turret. The engine idles low, a guttural hum beneath the distant roar, like thunder rolling in from the horizon. But it's no storm. It's them, the Afrika Korps, Panzers, dozens of them. Their silhouettes emerging from a haze, treads grinding the desert rock into powder. Reeves' heart pounds against his ribs, sweat stinging his eyes under the steel helmet. "Steady, boys," he mutters into the intercom, his voice a gravelly whisper. The lead Panzer III lumbers closer, its 50mm cannon scanning the ridgeline like a predator's gaze. Reeves' hand tightens on the traverse wheel. His gun? A puny 37mm pea shooter, the kind the brass back home called a relic. But here, in this narrow choke point, with the sun just cresting the hills, maybe, just maybe, it's enough. The air vibrates with the enemy advance. Reeves' crew, Sergeant Mike Donnelly on the loader, Private First Class Tommy Ruiz driving, shifts uneasily in the cramped confines. The Stuart's armor is paper-thin, a scout tank meant for recon, not a stand-up fight. Yet orders from Colonel Elias Grant were clear. Hold the pass. Delay Rommel's push toward the Allied lines. The first shots crack from the German scouts, high explosive rounds slamming into the earth ahead, showering Reeves' position with shrapnel. Range, 800 yards. Donnelly barks, slamming a round into the breach. Reeves squints through the sights, the crosshairs dancing over the lead tank's turret. Fire. The 37mm barks, a sharp crack that echoes off the rocks. The shell streaks out, impact the Panzer's track. Sparks fly, but it keeps coming. Miss? No, wait. The track sags, the beast slewing sideways. One down, the crew whoops, but Reeves silences them. More coming. Flank 'em if they bunch up. As the Panzers fan out, their commanders confident in superior firepower, the desert comes alive with Allied positions. Other Stuarts, hidden in defilade among the boulders, open up. Pop, pop, pop. The 37 MMS chatter, like angry hornets. It's not the punch of a 75mm Sherman, but at this range, in this terrain, the shells find weak spots. Vision slits, engine grills, exposed treads. A Mark IV erupts in flame, its ammo cooking off in a spectacular bloom. Reeves traverses, fires again. Hit. Another Panzer grinds to a halt, black smoke billowing. The charge falters, tanks milling as their formation breaks. You feel the shift, the momentum cracking like brittle glass. But why? How did this toy gun, derided by every tank jockey from basic to front, turn the tide? Flashback 6 months. In the dusty motor pools of Fort Knox, Kentucky, the 37mm M6 gun was a joke. Look at this pea shooter. Captain Roy Harlan, Reeves' older brother and a training officer, would scoff, slapping the barrel during inspections. Trainees laugh along, mimicking the weak recoil. On paper, it was obsolete. Muzzle velocity barely scratched heavy armor at range. German Panzers? Forget it. Might as well throw rocks. The vets from France 40 grumbled. But Reeves, fresh from OCS, saw potential. It's light, fast to reload, accurate as hell in close quarters, he'd argue in the mess hall, only to be shouted down. Kid, we're ain't a shooting gallery. The gun's history was humble, designed in the 30s for anti-infantry work, mounted on the nimble Stuart for speed over brawn. By 42, with Tigers prowling Europe, it was a relic. Commanders relegated Stuarts to recon, scouting ahead of the big boys. Don't engage, the doctrine read. Observe and report. Yet in North Africa, necessity birthed innovation. Colonel Grant, a grizzled veteran of World War I, drilled his battalion relentlessly. Tactics over tech. He'd bark during maneuvers in the Algerian sands. Terrain drills, use wadis and ridges for cover, force the enemy into kill zones. Training. Crews practice snapshots at 500 yards, emphasizing mobility, hit, and scoot. That 37mm ain't much, but in a pinch, it'll punch through side armor or tracks. Reeves absorbed it all, his crew bonding over endless gunnery runs. Donnelly, a former boxer from Chicago, loaded with machine-like precision. Reeves, a mechanic's son from Texas, nursed the Stuart's engine like a thoroughbred. They mocked the gun, too, at first, christened it Little David, after the biblical slingshot. But as reports trickled in of Sherman's brewing up against Rommel's 88s, they wondered, could the underdog bite back? Back in the pass, the battle intensifies. German infantry dismounts. MG-42's chattering suppression fire. Reeves Stuart jolts as a near-miss peppers the hull. Move us left, Tommy. Flank that cluster. The tank slews, treads spitting gravel. Another shot. The 37mm's AP round slices into a Panzer's engine deck at 400 yards. Flames lick out, crew bailing in panic. The charge stutters, tanks reversing, seeking cover. But one beast pushes through. A Panzer IV, turrets reversing toward Reeves' position. Its 75mm belches fire. Impact. The world tilts. Is this the end for Little David? The shell from the Panzer IV 75mm slams into the Stuart's frontal glacis with a deafening clang, metal screaming as it buckles inward. The tank lurches violently, throwing Reeves against the turret ring. Pain explodes in his shoulder. Something's torn, but the world doesn't end. No fire, no catastrophic brew-up. The round ricocheted? No. Glanced off the sloped armor at an angle that turned a kill shot into a glancing blow. We're still in it. Reeves shouts, voice raw. Smoke curls inside the fighting compartment, acrid and thick, but the engine roars on. Reeves guns the throttle. The Stuart slewing right behind a boulder cluster as another round whistles overhead, detonating harmlessly against the ridge. Traverse right, got him. Donnelly's hands blur, ramming home another AP round. The 37mm speaks again, sharp and insistent. This time, the shell punches through the Panzer IV's thinner side armor at 350 yards. A flash, a secondary detonation, ammunition rack hit. The German tank erupts in a pillar of orange flame, turret hatch popping open like a champagne cork as black smoke boils skyward. The crew doesn't make it out. Cheers erupt inside the Stuart, hoarse and ragged. Reeves wipes blood from a cut above his eye, grinning fiercely. That's two for Little David. Keep feeding her, Mike. The momentum has shifted decisively now. The German charge, once a disciplined wedge of steel, fragments under the withering crossfire. Other Stuarts in hidden anti-tank positions join the chorus. Pop, pop, pop. The 37mm guns barking in unison. Tracks snap under accurate hits. Engine decks ignite from plunging fire. Vision blocks shatter. Blinding commanders. One Panzer III slews to a halt, its track link blown apart by a well-placed round from a Stuart 200 yards to Reeves' left. The driver tries to reverse, but another shot catches a rear plate. Flames lick out. The Afrika Korps, masters of combined arms warfare, suddenly find themselves funneled into a perfect kill zone. Narrow pass, elevated positions, disciplined American crews refusing to panic. You can almost hear the German commanders cursing over their radios. Why won't these American toys die? The 37mm was never meant to frontally penetrate a Panzer IV's 80mm glacis range, but here at sub 500 yards, exploiting flanks and weak spots, it bites deep. The gun's high velocity and flat trajectory make it deadly accurate in these close-quarters knife fights. No massive explosion like a 75mm, but precise, surgical strikes that cripple rather than always destroy outright. Mobility kills stack up fast. Tanks immobilized become sitting ducks for artillery spotters calling in 105mm howitzers from the rear. The valley fills with burning hulks, the acrid stench of diesel and cordite drifting on the hot wind. Yet the battle isn't over. German infantry presses forward under MG-42 cover, trying to flank the American positions. Reeves spots movement, gray uniforms darting between rocks. Coax, Tommy. Get him the .30 cal. The bow machine gun chatters, tracers arcing out. Donnelly swings the turret, popping a high explosive round into a cluster of half-tracks. The shell bursts amid them, shredding metal and men. The infantry advance falters, then stalls. From the ridge above, American artillery observers adjust fire. 88 millimeters counter battery silenced by 155 millimeters long toms thundering from miles back. The Germans hesitate, their momentum broken. Reeves exhales, the adrenaline ebbing just enough for doubt to creep in. How many more can they stop before the big guns find them? His Stuart armor has held once, miraculously. But luck like that doesn't last forever. Across the valley, a fresh wave of panzers grinds forward. Commanders wiser now, trying to use terrain for cover. But the lesson is already sinking in for the Americans. The tiny gun mocked in sideline has bought precious time. Colonel Grant's voice crackles over the net. Hold fast. Reinforcements inbound. You've bloodied them good. Reeves smiles grimly. Little David isn't just surviving, it's winning. But as the sun climbs higher, baking the desert floor, a new threat emerges. Stukas screaming down from the east, sirens wailing like banshees. Dive bombers, hunting the Stuarts that dare defy the panzers. Is this where the underdog's luck finally runs out? The first Stuka siren splits the morning like a knife. A high, wailing banshee note that drills straight into the skull. Reeves jerks his head up through the open hatch just in time to see the black cruciform shape peel off in the sun, wings rocking as it rolls into its dive. The sound grows unbearable, louder, closer, until it feels like the air itself is screaming. Incoming. Button up, he yells. Donnelly slams the hatch shut. The interior plunges into dim red glow from the fighting lights. Reeves mashes the accelerator, the Stuart lurching forward, throwing up a rooster tail of dust as it scrambles for the next dip in the terrain. The bomb whistles down. Impact. Earth erupts 50 yards behind them, shrapnel pattering against the hull like heavy rain. The shock wave rocks the light tank sideways. Reeves' teeth clack together. Another Stuka follows, then a third. The dive bombers circle like vultures, picking targets with clinical precision. Across the pass, other Stuarts are already burning. Orange fireballs blooming where 500 kilograms bombs find their mark. Screams cut through the radio net, abruptly silenced. The German ground force, stalled by the earlier ambush, now seizes the moment. Panzers creep forward again under the air umbrella, using the explosions as moving cover. Inside the Stuart, the temperature climbs fast. Sweat soaks through coveralls. The air tastes of burnt oil and fear. They're bracketing us, Donnelly mutters, voice tight. Reeves scans the periscope. A Panzer foredges around a spur of rock. 600 yards. Hull down, but exposing its turret. Got one. Range 600. AP. Donnelly loads. The breech clangs shut. Reeves squeezes the trigger. Crack. The 37 millimeters round streaks out, strikes the Panzer's mantlet dead center. Sparks fountain. The turret jerks but doesn't brew up. Still, the German tank commander flinches, reverses hastily behind cover. A small victory, but it buys seconds. The Stukas keep coming. One peels in low, machine gun stuttering. Bullets hammer the Stuart's thin roof. Plink, 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 like coins dropped on sheet metal. A round punches through the engine deck. Something inside screeches and dies. Smoke begins to curl up from a rear grill. We're hit. Reeves shouts. Engines coughing, losing power. Reeves curses under his breath. Mobility kill. If they can't move, they're finished. He makes the call no commander wants to make. Abandon if she lights up. But we're not done yet. Swing the turret left. There's another Mark IV breaking cover. The gun traverses with agonizing slowness. Through the sight, the Panzer presents its flank at 450 yards. Perfect. Donnelly rams home the round. Fire. The shell punches through the thinner side armor just behind the turret ring. A bright flash. Secondary explosions ripple along the hull. The Panzer slews, track flung into the air like a broken whip, then rolls to a smoking stop. 3 kills now for little David. Reeves allows himself one grim nod. That's the boys back there. But the sky is still full of death. Another Stuka dives, lower this time, almost reckless. Its siren peaks into a brain-piercing shriek. The bomb releases early. The plane pulls up hard. Reeves tracks it instinctively, swinging the 37 millimeters skyward. Not doctrine, not even sane, but instinct. Quick. Donnelly swaps rounds in a heartbeat. Reeves leads the diving aircraft. Squeezes. The high explosive shell bursts 20 feet short of the Stuka's nose. Shrapnel rakes the cockpit. The dive bomber yells violently, wings rocking. It doesn't crash, but aborts the run, climbing away trailing smoke. The other Stukas hesitate, wearing now the little American tanks that refuse to stay down. On the ground, the German advance slows again. Commanders see the pattern. Every time they try to push, the hated 37 MMS reach out from unexpected angles, crippling rather than always killing, but always hurting. Immobilized panzers become magnets for artillery. The valley is a graveyard of twisted steel and black pillars of smoke. Radio chatter from the German side grows frantic. Requests for more air, for infantry to clear the ridges, for anything to break these stubborn lights. Reeves Stuart is barely mobile now, engine smoking, one track shedding links. Yet the gun still traverses, still speaks. Another Panzer edges forward, too confident. Another crack, another hit. The crew inside the tiny tank is exhausted, deafened, bleeding from minor shrapnel cuts. But something unbreakable has taken root. Belief. The weapon everyone laughed at has become legend in the span of a single morning. As the Stukas will hire, conserving fuel, a new sound rises from the west. American P-40 Warhawks, engine snarling, finally arriving to contest the sky. The balance tilts again. But on the ground, the last German reserve company is forming up for one final push. Can the battered Stuarts, running on fumes and faith, hold just a little longer? The P-40s tear overhead in a ragged line, engines howling defiance. Machine guns chatter. One Stuka catches fire mid-turn, spiraling down in a lazy corkscrew of black smoke and flame. The rest break off, climbing east towards safer skies. For the first time since dawn, the valley feels almost quiet. Only the crackle of burning fuel, the distant pop of small arms fire, and the low growl of idling engines remain. Reeves exhales through cracked lips. His Stuart sits canned on a broken track link, engine ticking as it cools. Thin gray smoke still drifting from a grill. Inside, the crew is silent for a long beat, each man listening to his own heartbeat slow. Still with us, Tommy? Reeves asks. Ruiz wipes it from his face. Barely. She's coughing like my old man after a pack of Lucky Strikes. But she'll roll if we baby her. Donnelly leans back against the turret wall, hands trembling slightly from adrenaline crash. How many we get, Lieutenant? Reeves counts in his head. 4 confirmed. Maybe 5 if that last side shot brewed up clean. He doesn't say the rest. For German tanks knocked out by a weapon the manuals had already written off. For steel beasts stopped cold by what the infantry called the Pop Gun Brigade. Across the pass, the remaining Stuarts and dug-in infantry hold their breath. Colonel Grant's voice returns on the net, calm but edged with pride. Reeves, you and your boys just bought us the morning. Sherman's are 30 minutes out. 1st Armored's lead company. Hold the high ground. Don't let them walk through. Reeves acknowledges, then switches to internal. One more push coming. They're mad now. Save the last rounds for when they're close enough to spit on. The Germans regroup at the mouth of the pass. Smoke obscures much of their line, but shapes move. Panzer IVs and a handful of heavier Panzer III Oss. NS with the short 75mm howitzer. Better suited for infantry support than tank versus tank. Infantry screens them, gray figures advancing in short rushes behind the steel. Commanders have learned, no more bunch charges. They come slow, deliberate, using every fold and boulder for cover. This is no longer arrogance. This is desperation tempered by respect. Reeves watches through the periscope. They're trying to envelop the left ridge. If they get around us, the whole position collapses. He makes the hard decision. Ruiz, can you limp us 50 yards west? There's a dip behind that boulder line. Better angle on their flank. Ruiz grunts. If the good Lord and Detroit are feeling generous. The Stuart creeps forward, track clanking horribly, shedding another link. Every yard feels like theft from fate. They reach the new position just as the lead Panzer IV noses into view at 300 yards. Close enough that Reeves can see the dust on the commander's goggles, the black cross stark against the sand-yellow paint. Last dance, boys. He first. Disrupt the infantry. Then AP on anything that shows a flank. Donnelly loads he. The breech slams. Reeves fires. The shell bursts short among the advancing German infantry. Dirt fountains. Screams cut short. The advance hesitates. The Panzer commander, sensing opportunity, orders full speed. His tank surges forward. Turret swinging toward the smoking Stuart. Reeves traverses. AP now. Click. Slam. Fire. The 37 millimeters round, traveling almost point blank, strikes the Panzer for just forward the turret at an oblique angle. It punches through the 30 millimeter side plate like a hot knife through paper, detonates inside the fighting compartment. A brilliant white flash. Then the turret lifts a foot off the ring and crashes back down, flames jetting from every hatch. The tank slews right and burns fiercely, blocking the path of the vehicles behind it. The German line stalls again. Confusion ripples through their formation. Another Panzer tries to swing wide. Reeves tracks it, fires once more. Track hit. Immobilized. A third attempts to back away. A Stuart farther up the ridge catches it with a flank shot. The valley echoes with a sharp, almost cheerful crack of the 37 MMS. Small voices that refuse to be silenced. German radio traffic must be frantic now. The order comes. Withdraw. Slowly at first. Tanks reversing under smoke cover, then faster. The infantry pulls back in good order, dragging wounded. The Afrika Korps, bloodied and baffled, leaves the pass. Reeves lowers his head to sight for a long moment, watching the dust settle. No cheering this time, just bone-deep exhaustion and the quiet knowledge that something improbable has happened. A derided weapon, in the hands of disciplined men who understood its limits and its strengths, had turned back an armored charge that should have rolled right over them. As the first M4 Shermans crest a western ridge, big 75 millimeters guns gleaming in the afternoon sun, Reeves finally allows himself to slump. His crew looks at one another, faces blackened, eyes red-rimmed. They don't need words. Little David didn't just survive El Guettar. It won. The battle would be remembered later as a tactical masterclass in using mobility, terrain, and accurate gunnery to offset technological inferiority. But on that day in March 1943, it was simpler. A handful of light tanks with pea shooters refused to yield, and an entire armored thrust broke against them. Sometimes the smallest gun, used perfectly, is the loudest voice on the battlefield. The sun hangs low now, a swollen red disk bleeding into the haze over El Guettar. Shadows stretch long across the pass, turning twisted tank hulls into black monuments. The firing has died to sporadic pops, mop-up skirmishes, snipers trading shots with stragglers. American Shermans finally rumble through the western mouth of the valley, their thicker armor and longer 75 millimeters guns looking almost arrogant next to the battered Stuarts. Crews dismount, stare in silence at the smoking graveyard. One sergeant, helmet pushed back on his head, mutters to no one in particular. Christ almighty, the pop guns did this. Reeves climbs stiffly out of his crippled Stuart. His left arm hangs useless. Medics will later call it a separated shoulder and multiple contusions. He doesn't notice the pain yet. Donnelly follows, then Reeves, each man moving like he's underwater, every joint protesting. They stand together on the scarred earth and look at what they've done. 17 German tanks confirmed destroyed or disabled in the pass that morning, 8 of them credited to 37 millimeters guns. The rest mobility kills turned fatal by artillery and follow-up strikes. Rommel's thrust toward the Kasserine bottleneck, meant to split the Allied line, has been blunted, perhaps decisively. The Afrika Korps will not reach the coast road today. Or tomorrow. Colonel Grant finds him near the wreck of Reeves Stuart. The old man's face is lined with dust and fatigue, but his eyes are bright. He clasps Reeves' good shoulder. You held with nothing but speed, training, and that little gun nobody believed in. I've already got the after-action report half written in my head. They'll try to bury it. Call it luck, call it terrain. But I was there. I saw. He glances at the smoking Panzers. Sometimes the weapon isn't the story. The men who aim it are. Word spreads quickly through the battalion. By dusk, mechanics are already swarming the surviving Stuarts, patching what they can. Crews swap stories around small cook fires. How the 37mm's flat trajectory let them thread needles through boulder gaps. How Donnelly's loading speed shaved precious seconds. How Ruiz kept a dying engine alive through sheer will. Little David stops being a nickname and becomes a quiet badge of honor. Some men even scratch tiny slingshot symbols on their turrets with a bayonet tip. In the official histories, El Guettar will be remembered mostly for the infantry fights on the hills, for Patton's aggressive counterthrust, for the first real American victory in Tunisia, the role of the M3/M5 Stuarts and their 37mm guns fades into footnotes. Light tanks provided valuable delaying action. Yet among the tankers who were there, the story lives differently. They remember the morning the brass laughed and became the morning the panzers ran. Months later, back in a rest camp near Oran, Reeves sits on a crate writing a letter home. His shoulders in a sling. The shakes have mostly stopped. He doesn't mention the kills, the fear, the smell of burning men. Instead, he writes, "The gun was small, sure. Everyone said so. But wars aren't won by calibers on paper. They're won by knowing exactly when to shoot, where to stand, and refusing to believe the odds. We stood. We shot. And for one morning, the odds believed us." The letter never mentions little David. It doesn't have to. The men who fought that day carry the lesson in their bones. Underestimate nothing. Not the weapon, not the crew, not the ground beneath your tracks. In the end, the forgotten tank gun wasn't revolutionary. It didn't change steel or powder or ballistics. What it changed was minds. And on a dusty Tunisian morning in March 1943, that was enough to stop an army. The screen fades to black over the silent valley. Wind moves across the wrecks. Somewhere very faintly, you can still hear the sharp, defiant crack of a 37mm gun echoing off the rocks.